I would like to introduce our speaker for today. Diana L. Seyb is a marketing strategist and consultant with over 25 years experience in marketing, writing, editing, public relations, and consulting. This evening, Ms. Seyb, also a freelance writer and former University of Southern California staff recruiter, will be presenting an insightful and much needed program on answering the most common job interview questions. And with that, I'd like to turn over the floor to Diana Seyb.
Okay, nothing's happened. Oh, there we go. Wow. Okay.
There you are.
Hello.
There you are. See you.
Hello. Can everybody see me now? All right, and then I want to share my slide program, correct?
You should be able to share it now. You should have the share button by the video.
Okay, there we go. It's coming up now. Okay.
There you are.
So, hello everyone. I'm so glad that you're joining us tonight. One of the things I do want to do is pay a special accolade to Oleg, because he was a great collaborator in helping me create this program so I could present it to the library, to all of you. So let's begin. So let's look at the first slide. Oops, and it's saying the interviewer's responsibilities. This is something I wanted to share with you because the interviewers are there to find the candidate. That's part of what their job description is, and they want to find someone that will benefit their company. And the thing is, they have to fill those job openings. They want to find the right candidate. They want to find out if he or she will be a good fit for the company, and can she or he identify and solve the problems that are in this company or this organization. And they want to make sure that you are going to contribute to the company productivity. So let me go to the next one. So your responsibilities as what we call a candidate for the position is you must research the company or the industry or the school before the interview. You have to know about them so that they understand that you really do want to be a part of them. No negativity. Never, ever say anything negative about your current or previous boss or company. This way they will know that you will never say anything bad about them, and you don't want to do that. It's really time for you to move on. That's pretty much what it is. Always be positive, because people, including yourself, you want to work with someone who's pleasant and positive and creates a nice, pleasant work atmosphere. You must also be organized. Make a list of your improved or your new skills. Think about how you have improved, maybe from being part of a team to being the team manager, or you took a couple of like webinars or seminars or special workshops to improve your skills. Make sure that you have these in a list to share with the person interviewing you. Allow silence. You do not have to fill a gap of quietness in the interview. Many people get nervous, including me. I always get nervous with a job interview. And you want to just be quiet, because sometimes the hiring person you're speaking with or the HR person, whoever is interviewing you, will start giving you more information. But also you want to make sure that you're aware of their time, and you don't want to keep going on and on and on talking about something when they have several other questions they want to ask you. It's just being polite and courteous to them. Share when asked. Be ready to share any outside interests, volunteering, hobbies, or etc. Do not volunteer these. Wait and see if they actually ask you these, but have a list of things that you would want them to know about you that would also relate to a lot of the skills that you have. And of course, the first question usually is, walk me through your resume. It's kind of boring, but it's easier for them to ask that. Then highlight 2 or 3 of your major job duties, responsibilities, and significant outcomes. How did you become? And pay close attention to the questions that they are asking you, because it's very important that you respond to what the question they're asking you, not answering them or giving them an answer you want to give to them. So here's some sample. These are just samples, but hopefully this will get you thinking about how you would answer that question. My interest began as a teenager when I was at school. This shows you were ambitious at an early age. And then my most current responsibilities are, so here you have a chance to explain them what you do every day, what you are responsible for in your job. I was promoted to team leader for my department because I motivated our department staff to achieve our goals ahead of our deadline. Several things are going on there. You were promoted because someone recognized your leadership qualities. They saw that you could pull a team together and that you could also motivate the people in this department to actually, meet or be ahead of the deadline. This is what a lot of companies like to see, someone who's what's called a self-starter. Here's another example answer. While managing another project, my team and I increased sales 50% over the previous year's sales. This is very important for you to know figures or percentages or something along those lines, because they're showing it. You're telling them again, I know what my value is. I know how good I am. I know what I can bring to you. Interview question 2. How did you hear about this position or job? This is important for them a lot of times to find out, did you look at it online? Was it in the newspaper? Was it in a special industry magazine listing? And then what do you know about our company or business? This is when you've done some of your research. What is it about our company and this particular position that interests you? All of this is really, all of this is really important because you want to be able to let them know, I have looked at your company. I want to be a part of your company or your organization. And so I've done the research and I see that I do like what you do in your company or whatever products your company sells or manages or develops. So answers to this are, I've always been interested in math and how it tells a story. I was researching companies with new forward-thinking businesses that support the most recent accounting practices. I found your company website posted position for Director of Finances, which fits my background, education, experience. These are all just examples, because when you were looking at that job and you find that you're interested in it, write down very quickly, why are you interested in that? Does it fit with what your skills are? Does it fit with the fact that you want to move on? Can you transfer a lot of the skills you already have to this new position? Are you ready for some new challenges? That kind of thing. And then interview questions. Why do you want this job? I do love this graphic. I think this is wonderful because you never ever say, I want to make money. But this graphic tells you that actually this person does want to make money. He actually physically, he or she wants to physically make the money. Interview. So the answer could be, I'm ready for new or more responsibilities. Your job description for financial project manager lists projects I am interested in. There you're also explaining to them, I've read the job description very carefully and I see what I could do for the company. I know how I can bring a lot of my experience to your company. I'm seeking more challenges and diverse projects to stretch my financial skills and experience. This is also telling them, whoops, sorry about that. This is also telling them that you welcome challenge, that you want to look for resolutions to different things, and that you're not afraid to deal with maybe resolution of a current problem. They might even give you an example once you say something like, I'm seeking more challenges. They might give you an example of one of the challenges they're having in their own company to see how you would respond to that. So be ready for that also. And then they want to know, why are you leaving your current job? And there's a lot of reasons for this, and you never want to say, I got fired. If you did get fired, just, that's fine. Just the thing is, obviously you weren't a good fit for the company anymore, or they weren't a good fit for you. So here are some of the answers. I want to be part of a company or school that embraces change and innovation in implementing math to resolve company organizational challenges. I'm trying to use math or accounting, budgeting or finances all the way through, so there's some continuity, but think about what you have in terms of the responsibilities you had in your job and what it is that you like most about your job, so that you can put something in your implementing math. You might be saying implementing my leadership skills, or I'm very organized and I welcome the opportunity to organize different projects and special projects and pull teams together. So think about it in those ways also. My current company has new management. I think we've all experienced this. And my department has a new focus that does not match my skills. That is one of the best ways to state that, because this happens to everybody. A new president may come in, or a new manager, and they decide to go in a slightly different direction than what you've been used to, or what you feel you're comfortable with, or what you feel will help you learn more about your particular position, and you're finding that it doesn't work anymore. So this is a way to state that that your skills don't match anymore for what they're looking for. What are your best professional strengths and your weaknesses? I, again, don't like it when they say, what are your weaknesses? And sometimes in interviews, I'll say, well, I don't feel I have any weaknesses, but I do have skills that I think I need to improve on. And so I've actually coached some people when they're going to interview someone and say, don't ask what their weaknesses are. Ask, what skills do you think you need to improve? Because it's a more positive atmosphere and people will respond more quickly, and I don't feel so defensive about it. Okay, so here's my several answers. My best strength is my management of financial reports and analysis of these reports. That's clear, that's concise, and they get a real good idea of how you see yourself fitting in with the company. The areas where I need improvement are in learning the most recent accounting methods to enhance my financial skills and applying the newest and most current mathematical applications. You're letting them know that, yes, I know I need improvement. I know I need, it could even be more education. It could be more like webinars, special workshops again, or something like that. And you want to let them know that you're willing to do that, that you're willing to try something new and help improve your skills, as well as be support to the company. Describe a challenge or conflict you had at work and how you resolved it. Be very prepared for this. And this question has been asked a lot, and a lot of people fumble with it because they don't want to say something bad. Well, you don't have to say something bad. It's more about how I resolved it was. But think about this. And if you had a situation with a coworker, that's unfortunate, but it's also along the lines of, you could say, something referring to, well, there were some challenges in dealing with some of the people on my team. I worked very hard at it so I could find the talents that they had so they could contribute to the team, something like that. So, and here's one example. A friend of mine actually told me this is what she had dealt with. While making a financial presentation to the company board, one of the board members stated she found it difficult to read financial reports. I suggested that as I give my report, she should write down any questions she had, which I would answer for her after the meeting. She was very pleased with my resolution. This way, you're letting her know that you heard what she had to say. You want to help her understand it more. Plus, she won't be taking time away from the people sitting in the meeting as she keeps asking questions because she's having some challenges understanding some of this. And this way also, you'll be able to connect with her after the meeting and show her some of the things that she maybe already knows, but also guide her a little bit and help to read like the next report. It's nice to develop a rapport, of course, with anybody on the board. This is another tough one. Please explain the gaps in your employment history. Everybody has gaps, and for so many different reasons, but you must be ready to answer this and think about when you've had gaps. Now, I'm going to give you several different answers here because they fit into different people's lifestyles and what they've had to do. So one is, I was ready to make a change in my career where I could apply more of my skills and experience. So that's part of, again, maybe you can't go any further in the company that you're in. Maybe they put a hiring freeze on and you really want to move on with your career. And so you've decided, I'm going to look for another company. I wanted to improve my knowledge to be ready for new career opportunities. Therefore, I took a hiatus from work and went back to school. This will impress them, the fact that you took that risk, you felt your knowledge wasn't what you thought it should be in the workplace now, and that you're willing to learn new skills and learn new information about the career that you're in. My company was greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and laid me off along with many employees. Many, many, many of my friends and colleagues have told me that they've all experienced this. So that is something that the company will not fault you on, but definitely address it. And then this was a dear friend of mine. He had to leave work because he was saying a family member became ill and needed constant care. I took time off from work to manage his health issues. Most companies will like the fact that you're trying to balance out your personal life with your business life. and that, you know, family is important to you, and the fact that you would take time off from work to do this. This shows them that you're committed. And this is mine. I was a stay-at-home spouse managing a household. I have great skills and experience in budgeting, managing family calendars and activities, and I am president of several volunteer organizations. I am ready to re-enter the workforce, bringing my budgeting, calendaring, and organizational skills to my job. I went back to school when I was in my mid-30s, and I ended up, fortunately, I was able to establish a double major, journalism and marketing. When I started going back to work, and they would say, well, why was there a gap? I said, I was raising my family. I went back to school because I wanted to complete my degree. And it's showing I took initiative. It's showing I wanted more education. It's showing that I moved forward, that I was ambitious. And I will share with all of you, when I was working for a property management company, I knew I could not move any higher than where I was in my current position. And I was speaking to a colleague of mine, and he said, well, you should try for a job at USC. And I said, well, what would I do there? And he said, well, you have great marketing skills. He said, I know you're a really good writer. I know they're looking for a recruiter because they need someone to rewrite a lot of their job descriptions. Well, I love to write, and that's why I'm a writer. So I did contact someone. I went in for the interview, and at the time, and I'll tell you, it was 15 years ago, I was 60 years old, and they still hired me. And the thing was, I did present to them, yes, I was currently working, but at the same time, I was able to share with them, I went back to school. I wanted to complete my degree, and I showed up letting them know that I had a college degree. I also had a lot of work experience. So that's also showing them, again, you're taking the initiative, you're ambitious, you want to improve yourself in many, many ways. So these are questions you can ask the interviewer, and you can definitely ask the interviewer questions. I also suggest that you take some questions with you into the interview, a pad, so you can write down some of the answers you give them or some of the questions they ask you, but also you know, questions you want to ask them. I think, Oleg, you've had an experience with interviewing. Would you like to share yours with the group?
Sure. Well, I've had experience as an interviewer and also in plenty of interviewing experience. And with regard to getting asked questions, I know there are a lot of people who say you have to ask questions to the interviewers. It's sort of like, you know, if you don't, you're going to get penalized somehow. And I'll say that that might be the case in some places. I know for for me, I've never had somebody asking questions as any kind of contingency on whether they get the job. Some people have questions, some people don't. The only thing that I think we talked about this before, the only thing is when people ask questions that they don't care the answer, where they don't care what the answer is. And there's some people who are like, I have to ask questions, so they just come up with something. And then I'm answering, you know, me or whoever I'm interviewing with, the other interviewer is is answering the question. And I see the person, they don't care at all. And I go, why did they even ask that question if they don't want to know the answer? So the point is that if you do ask a question, your question has to be meaningful. It has to be meaningful to you. You have to actually care what the answer is. So I think
Yeah.
these questions that you have here, I mean, they should be meaningful to most people. I mean, they're important to know.
Well, the thing is, you're letting them know that you're also in charge of the interview in terms of, I want to know more about you. And it's really important to ask, even in that first interview, who will I be reporting to directly? Because you want to find out, will I be reporting to you in HR? Will I be reporting to you because you're the hiring manager for this department? Will I be reporting to the manager? Will I be reporting to a supervisor? These are very valid questions, but as Oleg was talking about, make sure you want to know the answer. Don't ask a question just because you think you need to ask a question, because the people interviewing you are pretty experienced and they're going to know, well, this is kind of fluff. It's not really a relevant question. And there may be other questions you want to ask that weren't answered. I had a wonderful experience at USC when they were interviewing me, the person that was interviewing me, in that he kept answering all the questions that I had on my tablet. And when we were done, he said, do you have any questions for me? And I said, well, I'm very impressed because You've answered all of them. I have no questions to ask you. And that created a really nice rapport. I was being honest with him, but he also saw I had the tablet on my lap and I had my pen there and I was making a few notes. But he also saw me checking things off and flipping the page and checking things off and flipping the page again. So it worked out really well in that. And many times when I've been part of a panel interviewing people, the other panelists are really good about seeing how nervous that person is. So if you walk in and you're really, really nervous, it's all right to say to them, you know, I'm so anxious about the company. I really want to be a part of it. But I'm also very nervous right now. And many times people on the panel would tell the candidate, take a breath, just relax. You know, one person actually said, this isn't an inquisition. This is because we're so interested in you. You're very important to us. We all wanted to be here to find out more about you, which was so reassuring to the different people that we were interviewing. And it was an extremely nice courtesy. But don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry. Or not even say I'm sorry, but just say, I am so nervous because I really want to be part of your company. And another story I'll share with you that I've shared with Oleg and Anna Sylvia. I got a job because I asked for it. I think 10, 12 other people had interviewed for the job. And when I was leaving, I really wanted the job. And I thought, what? Well, I don't even work for them. What could they do? Fire me? So I turned around and I said, I really, really want this job. I know that I could bring a lot of value to the company. And within a couple of days, I got a call back from the company and they said, we want to have another interview with you, but we also we'd like to hire you, but we want to do one more interview with, I think it was the manager of some department or something. And I said, all right. So when they did hire me, I said, all right, you called me back. I said, why did you hire me with all those other people there? And it was so simple. The person I was speaking to said, you're the only one that asked for the job. So if you really want the job, ask for it. If you find you don't want the job and you're realizing you're not going to be a good fit, just politely thank them. So I hope this is helpful. And I have to show my last slide. This is just, I love this slide. Remember, you have value to bring to any company or organization. And I love it because she's saying it's not a job skill we normally look for, but it could help us cut our corporate travel budget. So see, you do have a uniqueness that the right people at the right company or organization will see. So I guess we're ready for some questions.
All right, well, we have a few questions that actually came in way at the beginning. So, we're going to have time here. We have plenty of time. So if anybody out there has questions, if you want to ask Diana, how do I answer this interview question? If you've always wondered what the best way to do it would be, now would be the time to ask. Go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to your question because we've got time. So let's get to the first few questions that we've had. Let's see. So how do you recommend handling the dreaded, where do you see yourself in 5 years question? If someone had asked me 6 years ago where I saw myself in 5 years, I could never have considered us surviving a pandemic and struggling to hold on my job as the answer. This question is so outdated, yet it's still in use. Why?
I agree with you. It's very outdated. And in my experience at USC, no one ever asked that. And then when I did get laid off from USC, like many people did, in working with the unemployment people, they said they try not to ask that question because it's not really fair to people. When somebody asks you that, I would just, I think you have to determine what you want to say. Like you want to say, I want to be, okay, now I'm coming on board as a manager. Well, I want to be, president of the company, or look and see what you really want to do in 5 years. And it might be, I want to go back to school so I can come back to the company. I think it's an individual thing. You have to think about it. I made a big mistake, so I'll share a big mistake with you. I was interviewed by a woman for her company, and I really liked her. I liked the company. I wanted to be a part of it. Now, this is like 25 years ago. And she asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I kind of laughed. I said, well, I think I'd like to be in your position because the company will be so successful. You'll be able to move on. And I thought that was a positive thing. And she didn't like that at all. And she was very insulted by that. So I suggest don't ever do that.
Yeah, that's probably not. I think you meant well, but I think she thought you were trying to replace her.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't understand that I felt so confident about the company and how successful they were and how they're moving forward and growing that I could see her. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I didn't get the job, didn't work out, and I wasn't supposed to. So moving on.
Moving on. So actually, this question is perfect because I remember you told me and Anna Sylvia a story that's exactly right for this question. And the question is about salary. Uh, when I get asked what are your salary expectations, how should you answer this question?
Well, if they ask you in that first interview, that's usually not done. So I would be a little cautious about that if they ask in the first interview and maybe respond with, well, are you strongly considering me before you give any number? And it kind of gets into a little bit of a game, and the policy is the first person who states a figure loses. So when they say, what are you looking for? Give them a salary, well, and say back to them, well, how do you see, what value do you think I can bring to the company in terms of salary? And they say, well, give us a figure, and say, well, how about what is the salary range for this position? Keep asking them, because I found out through the years that when I've accepted a salary they've offered me or tried to bump it up a little bit, I found out later the budget had $12,000 more they were willing to pay me. So the money is always there. Don't ever think the money's not there. And I will tell you, a friend of mine was negotiating just within the last year for the company wanted to give her a higher position, which was great, and they offered her a salary that was not comparable to what the responsibilities she would be taking on. So she and I talked about this, and I said, well, tell me more about the company. And she said, well, the money's tight. They keep telling me that. And I said, everybody's money's tight. And she said, but they are building this whole new building. I said, what? And she said, well, they're building a new building, but they're telling you they don't have the money to pay you. I said, what is your ideal salary? And then go online and research, research, research. And I said, start making a list of what your responsibilities are now and what their expectations of your responsibilities once you take this new position. And then you can always say, I appreciate the offer, but I've done my research online, and for the responsibilities that you've asked of me, I feel, something within the range of $12,000 more than what you're offering me would work. And I have to tell you, my friend got a really good salary, and she and I laughed because later she said, I knew they had the money. She said, I accepted something lower. She said, I knew I should have negotiated for more. So, but it was kind of funny because she was so good about it, and it was fair to the company. Always think what is fair to them, not just me. And don't be exorbitant in what your requests are. And also review sometimes when they ask you that, say, well, what are some special perks I get in the job, or what are some special things at USC? They started what's called a 401(b), which is for educational, so it's like a 401(k). And if I put 5% of my salary in there, the university would match it with 10%. So that was more of a perk to me than a salary, because I now had like I had a 401(k), which I had not had in any of my positions before. And if I put in $5, USC put in $10, up to 5% of what my salary was. So it was like an automatic saving. And their health plan was absolutely amazing. It was so minimal what was deducted from my paycheck every month compared to what I was paying for my own insurance. So crunch the numbers there too. You might want a certain salary, but at the same time, they might have a great health plan, and they might also, like I said, have special perks for you.
Well, that's great. We had a bunch of people ask about how to salary, and so I think you've covered that quite a bit. And if we have time after, maybe we'll cover it some more. But I think you've done it, and I like that story. That's a good story. I'm gonna actually, I have a question here that I can answer, and then if you, Diana, if you have anything to add, then you can add something also. And the question is, what kind of Zoom background should we be using for a virtual interview? And I know the answer to that question, and the answer is whatever you do with your background, just make sure it's not distracting. If you want to do
Yes.
use the blur, use the blur. If the background of your room, so let me turn off my background and I'll kind of give you an example. Because the background right now, I tend to use this purple background here, but I can also show you. Just going to turn off the background. So you can use using something like this is actually fine because there's nothing here that where the interviewers are going to be like, what is that back there? What is all that stuff?
Exactly.
They're going to be focused on you. So whatever you do, just make sure you don't have a whole bunch of clutter back there. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules about what background to use.
Well, yes, and like you said, it's important that you look at, like Oleg taught me. I just want to let everybody know. Oleg and Anna Sylvia taught me is like sit there in front of the camera and look behind you, and then you'll look at different things. You go, oh no, that shouldn't be showing. And so I arrange my room a little bit differently too, because you can see directly into my kitchen, and there's no reason for anybody to see my dirty dishes tonight. So it is about image sometimes, but you can do it. And I was thinking about getting all the special lights and everything, and realize it's for me. I just didn't want to go to the expense, and I don't think anybody needs to go to that kind of expense. Not yet. Not unless you become professional at doing it. But I have a lot of friends who've been doing their work at home, and um, they do fine with the light behind them or around them. And sometimes you have to block off light if it's coming just in one direction. But like you said, it's and Zoom interviews are going. I think they're going to be a consistent thing. I don't think they're going to go away. It's just too convenient for everybody involved.
It's true. It's true. So it's time to get good at them now.
Yes, practice,
So
practice, practice.
that's what it takes. So the next question. I have a gap in employment and have been attending school furthering my IT training while I continue my transferable skills at home. And this part of the question is actually applicable to a lot of people that are on our program today. On my resume work history, I titled this, being at home, Family Home Management. Is this acceptable or is there a better title I should use? So the general question is, for
Yeah.
somebody who has stayed at home and taken care of people or just hasn't been in the professional workplace, what to put on a resume there? Or
I would,
how do you address that in an interview?
right. Yeah, I wouldn't put on their home. I would put, I don't want to say isolated either, but home is going to be people, they're kind of going to look at it. And if they have 12 resumes they're looking at, and yours says something about home, they're just going to dismiss it right away. And you don't want to do that for yourself. You could put something like independent learning. It's going to be a challenge. I would look up different ways that you could state that, because you're still improving your skills and you're still working. And the whole idea of going to school, and that's why if you want, I can go back to the slide that was addressing the gaps. Let me.
Yeah, go back to that slide.
Okay, yeah. How do you explain the gaps in your employment history? So, and the one was, like I said, I was the spouse, the stay-at-home spouse managing a household. So see, use the terms managing. Um, think about that, managing like your education, and then you could state something along the lines of, it's difficult because it's hard to think about, because you're staying at home, but you're improving your skills. That's the important thing, that you
Hmm.
you continue to move on with your education. You took advantage of staying at home and being safe, and being healthy, to also improve all of your skills. And they're going to, first of all, it's going to be, you're innovative, you're a self-starter, you have good self-guidance, those kinds of things. So I just don't want to put home. I think that's not on the, I wouldn't put that on the resume. I would just put, put your skill, list your skills that you've improved, and have that list at the end of your resume. I'm hoping that's helpful. Everything is so new now. We have to rework a lot of things that we had not had to deal with before. But
But I think that what you're saying is on target and just focusing on the type of skills, because like what it says on the slide, I have great experience in budgeting, managing family calendars and activities, volunteer organizations, somebody who stayed at home, regardless of whether they're caring for a sick loved one or kids. Um, there's a lot of things involved in that, and I think that sometimes people are less confident about addressing that or mentioning that. And the fact is that it's true. There is really a lot of value in what you've been doing.
well, I'll tell you one thing I would tell people sometimes when I would coach them, and they would say something about, I say, well, what do you do every day? Well, I don't know. I answer the phone, I respond to emails, I work on a project. And I said, start making a list. And I'm serious about this. It's like okay, so when you're at home and you start that work day for yourself, and or the education, it's like start writing down what you are doing. What classes did you take? What courses did you take? What programs were you involved with? Um, things like that. And like, were you responding to emails? And did you take several Zoom meetings during the day? And did you set up meetings? Were you, just, you'll be surprised how much all of you really are busy, just what Olga was saying. But you have to start making a list, because you'll be very surprised how much you actually have done every day. Even if it's like, I was just trying to think, even if it's like running errands, it's like, okay, so you went to the post office, you did the dry cleaning, you had to get groceries. Well, you had to organize time to do all that, plus wearing a mask. So, there's those kinds of things. But it's showing how organized you are too. So, and you could even say, 4 hours a day, I was in a program, learning more about IT. I'm going to reference this person asking the question, and put a list of the different courses, classes, programs, whatever that you took, because that's important too. But really sit down and figure out, what do I do every day? And it's like having a daily diary kind of thing. And again, you'll be very surprised at how much you actually accomplish and how much you've done in just one day.
All right, I have the next question here, and I'm going to let you answer first, and then I have a thought about this question also. So the question is, do you have tips for the question, what are you looking for in your next job? I feel like I'm expected to say something like, I'd like to move into management, but that is not my interest now. What else could indicate that I would stay with the company?
Hmm. Ask me the question again. Let me think about it.
Sure. So the question is, what are you looking for in your next job? How would you answer that question?
So they could be referring to the fact that you're sitting there and they're interviewing you for the current job.
Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking. Um, the best thing you could say, first thing is, I want more responsibility. It's kind
But
of a
what if what
broad.
if what if you don't want more responsibility? What if you want the responsibility of the job?
Okay, I guess, say you're going in and interviewing for an IT position as a manager. So they're asking you, that question. It's you want to let them know that you want more than what you're doing right now. And if you don't, you're going to have trouble finding a job.
Well, for example,
So
sometimes places there's sort of an assumption that somebody wants to get into management. But what if somebody doesn't want to be a manager? What if they just want to be a contributor?
then I would say things like, I'm a great team player. I like being part of a team, and I like supporting the manager, uh, with my skills and my talents and my knowledge. Um, it's it's a tough one. Yeah, it's a tough one for people
Hmm.
that don't want to move forward. It's even
Yeah.
getting a job at Taco Bell. I mean, you kind of want to move forward from a little bit, just because you want to increase your salary. But
Hmm.
it's a good question. It's a very good question. I hope that was helpful. So you go ahead. Oleg, you said you had a.
Yeah, I think that what you said was helpful. And my thinking about this is that that you consider what your values are. Why don't you want to move into management? And the reason for some people is, I value stability. I value having, having a good work-life balance. When you value stability, when you say I value stability, that tells the company that they can depend on you. That with you, they're going to get consistency. That you're not going to jump ship to another company because this is the job you want. You're
Yes,
looking for this job. So let's move
it's a good
on.
question. It's there's many layers to that.
There are many layers. I think a lot of these questions, there's a lot of because the companies are looking for different things when they ask these questions. And so depending on everybody's personal experience, the job, it can be complex. But also, like you said, the companies really want to hire somebody. So they're just looking for the best fit for them.
Exactly.
So here's an interesting question. And yeah, this is a tough one. How does one engage an interview who has made it obvious they don't want to be there? And this was the person that the position would report to.
Well,
I've had this experience.
I would ask to meet some of the colleagues if possible and say, oh, thank you so much for, taking the time and all this. Would there be an opportunity for me to come and meet some of the people that are in the department that I would be working with or for or whatever? And my first inclination is, if this is the person the company has conducting the interviews, I would run. I would take my time and and find another company to interview with if at all possible. That's a clear sign, because usually it won't get better. And if you have to report to that person and you already are feeling uncomfortable with them, it won't get any better. And Oli, you said you experienced that. I've experienced that too, and it's hard because the job looks great, maybe, the
Yeah,
position looks great
yeah,
and the company looks great. And then you realize, but then I have to work with that person.
yeah. Yeah, when it happened to me, it was years and years ago. When it happened to me, that I interviewed and I left the interview going, that guy, what was up with that guy? It was like he was like somebody dragged him into the room and left him there to interview me. And in some ways, I'm glad I didn't get the job uh, because I don't know if I wanted to go in and see that person every day.
Right, exactly, exactly. So I would think about that. Like, right now, the economy, there's so many jobs that are opening up. People say there aren't, but there really are. I mean, there's just so many things out there that if somebody wants to make a career change, I think that as sad as the pandemic was, and it was such a health crisis, this is a real opportunity to change, because everybody will be doing that. And there's so many jobs that have been reconfigured differently than they were before the pandemic, that there's some really great opportunities to go in a different direction, and a direction that maybe you've always wanted to go towards. So I encourage people to think about that too. Are there any
Agreed.
slides that anybody wants to see again?
There was a slide that's it was the I think the strengths, somebody wanted to see the strengths and the weaknesses slide again.
There we go. Okay. What are your best professional strengths, your weaknesses? What skills do you think you need to improve? My standard, I'll just share my standard is I always need more improvement on my computer skills. I'm not a computer person in terms of, as much as I would love to watch. I'm a classic noir movie fan, and they're all on YouTube, but I don't really want to sit at my computer and watch a movie. That's just me. I will do it if I have to, but that's something that I share with people. And a lot of times when I've shared I need to improve my computer skills, different companies said, well, when we bring you on board, we have some educational opportunities for you. We have some webinars. We have, and that's always encouraging too, because if that means they're paying for it, which is great. They're allowing me to take time from work to attend them or take time out of my day. So I'm impressed with the company that does that. And those that do let me know about that, those are the ones that don't see it as a weakness. They just see it was something I need to improve. I need more education.
That's good. That's good if the company is, if already you see that the company is trying to, they see you as a growing asset, then they want to help develop
Yes,
your skills.
exactly.
So here's a question. Is it ever okay to say, I don't know, in response to a question an interviewer asks? Obviously, you can say you look into it and get back to them, but in the moment, what do you do if you've prepared, yet you're drawing a blank on that particular question?
I would, I mean, if they already have an answer for it, but they're drawing a blank, I would just say, give me a moment. I've actually totally gone blank. And sometimes it releases a lot of the tension, because everybody has experienced it in their lifetime. And I guess the thing is, if you're as prepared as you can be, it sounds like this person probably, asking the question was, but suddenly kind of froze. That happens too. That's okay. And just say, give me a moment. Like you said, Olga, like say, I'm not sure about that. I would rather be sure and let me get back to you. May I call you tomorrow? Which again is great because then you have a setup where you're going to be reconnecting with them
Mhm.
and you're showing them that you're going
Yeah.
to follow up, which is really
Yeah, I think that's good. What I've had in interviews is when I've been in the interviewer where somebody when I ask a question or we ask a question and somebody doesn't know the answer and then they just start talking and they're not answering the question and then
yeah.
5 minutes later we haven't heard an answer to the question but that person's just been filling that space. I think I'd rather that they just take a pause for as long, if they need to
Yes.
pause for 30 seconds, I don't mind. This interview is going to run 15, 20, 25 minutes. We have a minute. We have 30 seconds to wait while somebody sort of centers themselves and thinks about it again. The other option is to ask if they can restate the question because somebody gives you a little bit of extra time
Exactly.
and they might say it in a different way.
That's a good coaching technique too, to say, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm not sure I clearly understood it. And sometimes some of the panelists are asking the questions. I would sit there and go, what did they just ask that person? What? I'm
And
confused.
and the questions that are like 3 questions or 5 questions in one,
Yes.
those are the hardest. And somebody just posted in the chat, is it okay to bring in a notebook with some of the answers to interview questions? I mean, it depends on where you're interviewing. Some places don't let you bring a notebook, but in general, I think what you were saying, Dan, is that that's what you did. You brought a notebook with your questions for the interviews, and then I presume some notes about your experiences. I would think that if you have a notebook and it has like the information from your resume in it, that kind of stuff, I presume that I mean, very few companies would say that that's some cheating or something. I mean, what you're trying to present your own information, so
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I know that there are some organizations that don't let you bring notebooks into interviews, but
I find that very odd because the
yep,
person is already anxious. Even the people that are interviewing you are anxious because, as we discussed, they want to find the right person for the company. So they're a little anxious about this responsibility too. So I find that kind of odd. I actually had a boss once that when we would have meetings, just he and I, uh, he would say, I would write some things down and he came over and put his hand on my hand and said, you have to stop writing. And I went, what? And he
that's
said,
so odd.
I don't want you to write. You're not paying attention to me. I said, I'm paying exactly attention to you. So I showed him that I written down the question he asked because just what you had said, he'd asked 3 or 4 things in one sentence. And I said, I want to be clear so that I can answer this correctly. Um, it was an interesting situation. And what I did was I got back to him the next day with answers to all of his questions. And that helped us develop a really good rapport.
Yeah,
But I also told him, I said, I'm a journalist, I'm a writer. Of course I'm going to write these things down. Something when you were talking about a resume too, I always suggest to everybody, take 2 or 3 hard copies of your resume with you whenever you interview.
that's good advice.
Um, I know everybody wants to email and all that, but sometimes it's like if you have that prepared, instead of them trying to go back to find your email to download your resume, it's right there. And if they want to show it to 2 of their colleagues or another department or something, they can do that right away. And it's also again showing you're prepared, you're ready, and you're excited about the job interview and the possibility of working for this company.
Yep. Let's go through some questions pretty quickly here because we've got a bunch and I want to cover as many as possible. So the next question that somebody is what do you do when you get the question, why should we hire you?
I love that when people ask that. People ask that like in a panel. I'm like, why would you ask them that? Because it's kind of redundant with all the things you've already been asking with them. And again, it kind of goes back to I'm ready to move on. I want to find a different job. Or again, it's like maybe the company's downsizing. You have to think about your own reason. And if it's like, I mean, a friend of mine said one time, he said, because I'm really great at what I do. You can't possibly pass me up. Now, the right company would laugh and think that was great. The wrong company would dismiss him immediately and say, thank you so much, goodbye. It's a tough question, but you have to think inside of you, why do I want this job, and be ready to answer that. It's like it kind of becomes an innate thing, but you may have to answer that question.
Well, and it has to do with value. I mean, what you're like we were talking earlier
Right.
about when somebody, well, what do you want for your next job? Well, you're thinking about this job, and you might value stability, and this is a job that where I'm going to be able to have good work-life balance. I'm going to be able to be consistent in this job. This is a subject that I'm really interested. I'm interested in developing my skills in this area. But yeah, or you're just good at it. I mean, this is what you love to do. This is what you want to do.
Yes. You say, I'm really, really good at this.
Yeah. I,
And
I
I,
want to well, I want to serve. I want to contribute to, I want to serve your customers. I want to serve this group that this company serves. I'm
yes,
really passionate about this industry.
right, exactly. That's very
If
good.
you're applying for a job at Home Depot, I would presume that you have some desire to help people with their looking for lug nuts or
Yeah,
whatever it is,
exactly.
because there are like 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 of them. There's a lot of them.
Well, when I was applying at USC, the thing that came up was, well, why did you go back to school? And I said, because I wanted to finish my degree. And I said, I had two little girls. I said, they're in school all day long. And they said, well, how did you do your program? Now, this is way before the whole thing of this, online learning and this. I mean, this is like in the mid 70s. And so I said, well, I did classes on the weekends. I did classes at night. I did some things online. And when they asked me that question, I was able to explain a little bit more. They showed that I would persevere, that I was focused, that I'd set a goal for myself and I completed it. So it was saying more to them than me just getting my college degree. So those are some things too I want people to think about. Like if you really made, like you said with Home Depot, if you've like been fixing your own plumbing for like 10 years and you just love that as opposed to going in and being an accountant in a company and decide I'm going to apply to Home Depot, they're going to see that enthusiasm. And like you said, oh, like the passion and the energy that somebody brings to a job. The right people will see that. And even if they don't have the exact specific skills, that company is feeling like we can monitor them, we can move them in the right direction. This is somebody that we can mold and take some of this energy and passion to help our company.
Exactly. So here's a question about a career pivot. How do you interview for a field that you have no direct experience for?
Well, my first question is, why would you be doing that? And again, it's almost like the Home Depot thing. It's like, you've always loved plumbing and you really want to do that now and make money at it instead of going into an accounting job. So I think for me too, I was in real estate and they want to know why I was applying where I was applying. And I was able to tell them I'm a published writer. I know marketing strategy. I address all the things that they were looking for because I did have the experience in that. If you feel you don't have the experience, but you're interested in a particular job, I would take the time to read about it and do research and find out, because then you're going to find out, I really like this job because say you want to work at an art museum. And right now, it's like you're a plumber. Let's go back to the plumbing. And why do you want to do that? Because you love art. You love all kinds of art. Well, what are some of the artists that you like? So it's going to be kind of a natural, if you want to do a career pivot, I would think it's because you've grown in what you're doing now and you're ready to take risks in a new direction. You've changed, you've grown in your life and you're ready to go in another direction. You just have to have that direction focused. So when someone asks you that question, just what we were saying, it's like, I want to work in some kind of art community, whether it's collecting art in terms of, setting up art, catering, as a curator, something like that. Think about all the different positions that are there. But you have to be ready to answer that question with, this is why I want to do this.
And these are the skills that I bring to the position.
Exactly. And all skills are transferable, all skills. So sometimes it's a good idea to maybe make a list of the skills that you think you have, like we were saying, like, as a at home spouse, budgeting, organizing, scheduling, calendaring, you know, on time for meetings, planning meetings. Start thinking about all the skills you already have that you could apply to this, like you said, the career pivot that you're going into. And you could convince them of that. If you see how you would work for them, that helps them see how you would work for them too.
I got another one for staying at home. It's self-motivated because when
Oh,
you're at
yes.
home taking care of other people, there's nobody else that you're the one you're it's completely self-motivated. You don't have a boss that's going to say, "Oh, you didn't clean the house today." You do it
Exactly.
because that's what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. That's a very good point.
Another question. What is a good question or approach to find out about a company culture?
Wow, that's always hard to do. One of the best things, two of the things you could do is when you go online to look at the company, because that's what we all do now, look at the press releases, look at the things that they are putting in publication. It's really interesting because then you'll see what that company emphasizes. Say it's a company that builds I'm into water sustainability. So say it's a company that builds a pipeline to get water to different ranchers and farmers and all of that kind of thing. Well, you want to see, like you said, with the culture, if you go online and look at what they're publishing on their own website, and again, press releases, things that they send to the you know, uh, community publications, those kinds of things. It's also a good idea to call the company and say, I'm very interested in them. You know, you get the receptionist or someone there and say, um, could you share with me some of the things you like about your company? And most time, unless the person is really busy, they won't do it. But you could also ask if they have any brochures. Sometimes I even look them up on the New York Stock Exchange to see what do they say about their own company. It's interesting because they always have a company profile of some kind. Um,
Yeah, and there's also websites like Glassdoor that they kind of give you a
yes,
little bit of insight. You might connect with somebody on LinkedIn who works for that company, and if you have
that's
some
right.
kind of
That's
connection, you
right.
could ask somebody who actually works there. And sometimes people are brutally honest about their own company, which is
Yeah.
nice. It's not nice for the company sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's nice for the job seeker.
Exactly.
So let's move on to the next question. This is a big one for everybody right now, and I have some thoughts about this too. How has the pandemic changed the job interview process? And if it has changed, how has it changed?
Well, I think what we're talking about today, people are now doing interviews, via their computers and the internet and all of that. And again, just simple things like, oh, you and I are talking about what is your back, what's the background? Is it distracting when people are interviewing you, kind of thing? And I used to do some cable television, and I learned what not to wear in front of the camera. So never wear
Mm.
white, never wear black, wear a color of some kind. But again, like you were saying, like whatever your background shows too. Yeah, it kind of gets into what are you comfortable with? What works best for you? At USC, they used to tell the students to wear white shirts and black suits, men and women, when they went to apply for jobs. And I would just cringe when they would say that, because
Black suits. Hmm.
black suits with like white shirt or something. And all I can remember was when I was in high school and I sang in the choir, we all had to have white tops and, black pants or skirts or something. And I went, no one's going to remember that person. I'm not saying walk in there with a plaid suit, but um, wear something that's flattering, to you, to your colors, so that they're looking more at you instead of the black and white kind of thing. Because black and white are kind of negative colors anyway, and in in a person's brain. That's a whole other thing we could get into here.
Yeah.
But
So
I just think, what is a person comfortable with doing? If they say we only do Zoom meetings, well then, like you were saying, um, do more research on what do I need to do to conduct a Zoom meeting? What do I need to say? And every interview, I time myself. I make sure that I'm only there for 30 minutes. And I used to have like an alarm set on my watch, because this is before, cell phones kind of thing. And the alarm would go off, and the person I was talking with would say, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you're interviewing other people." And I will tell you, every single time, if that person was interested in me, they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Let's go another 10 minutes. I have some more things I want to discuss with you." So it always tends to be a positive thing. So when you're on being interviewed, time yourself and say, do a rehearsal like we've done, with my programs too. Do a rehearsal with yourself and ask you questions you think they might ask you and see how long it takes. And then again, set a little alarm for yourself. And if they say, "What's that?" you can say, "Well, I know you're interviewing other candidates." And just think about that too. Like it's having a mutual respect also, which is important.
Mhm. And we are going to have a video on our YouTube channel that Anna Sylvia is actually filming currently about the video resume. So if you don't know what a video resume is, that's also something that has come up lately. I don't know exactly what a resume is, video resume is. So I'm looking forward to when we can post Anna Sylvia's video on our YouTube channel. So check back on our YouTube channel because that's going
Yeah,
to be up there.
I've heard about, but yeah, I haven't seen too much of that yet. So that'll be interesting.
Maybe something that's coming at some point in the future. I don't think it's huge yet, but I think might be coming.
Well, it's
But
interesting now
yeah,
because with, the Zoom meetings and like you said, the video resume, years ago when I was at USC, most other countries would request that you put your photo on your resume.
yep.
And we didn't do that here in the United States because we felt that could be discriminatory. And it was. A lot of students that were from Asia or India, some from South America, they have a different look about them. Just, I found it exotic and very attractive. But it's people would look at them and they'd have negative feelings about it. And I would coach some of the students. I'd say, "Don't ever put your photo on a resume here in the United States." I said, because no company wants to take the risk of someone saying, "Well, you didn't hire me because you saw what I look like." So
Yep. So the next question, how do I address a volunteer demotion during an interview where I'm still employed?
a volunteer demotion, I'm not sure
So
what that is.
if somebody decided to take a demotion and then they're asked about, maybe the person sees their resume and asks about it, um, how do they address that?
Well, truthfully, why were you demoted? Was it
Well, they decided to take a demotion. So, yeah, truthfully, exactly.
truthfully, like, why would you do that? I mean, if you were willing to do that, did it mean they were increasing your salary? So was that it? Did you I would just answer it truthfully. Um, how would they know that anyway? I mean, that's not going to be on your resume, is it? Like, I was
I
demoted.
think just different job titles, but
Uh,
I think you're actually on to what they exact because there's a reason that you took a voluntary demotion, and maybe you made a sacrifice for the good of the company, or
exactly.
maybe the job title of the other job title was more fitting with your skills, and you wanted to develop yourself in that direction, even if it meant having less money or having a less prestigious job title. And I think that might be looked at as positive. Somebody is so devoted to a company that they're, that to a place of work that they're willing to do that.
Right. And to support the company, like you said, sometimes there's restructuring that goes on and they change your title because they're restructuring. And so they did that several times at USC, and it was really interesting. Unfortunately, a lot of people quit
Mm.
because they did restructure and demoted a lot of people. Um, but yeah, just address it honestly and directly and get it over with. Answer the question, get it over with, move on.
Mhm. Exactly. So let's move on to the next question, and that is piggybacking off of the employment gap question. Do you suggest leaving the gap blank on the resume and just addressing it in the interview rather than including what you were doing during the resume, like caring for family, etc.?
That's a tough one because you they're going to ask you about, because they're going to see the gap anyway. That's something that you could address in your cover letter and say, I'm sure in reviewing my resume that you see I had a gap in my career track, and this is why. But I wouldn't put it on the resume. I would just, it's a resume. You don't have to address the gap. Some companies would want you to, but I suggest not doing that. So I would, I'd get a book from the library about resumes and how to deal with, work gaps. There's plenty of books that are written about it and guides about all that. So that would
And
be a
also,
good
the other
idea.
option is to create a functional resume where you
That's
don't
true.
have a sequential list of your jobs.
And I happen to have a resume tutorial addressing that, right?
Yeah.
So,
So let's
other
see here.
questions?
So we've only got a few more minutes left because it's 8:12. So I think we're going to go till about 8:15 or so.
Sure.
So we've got a few more questions, and we rarely are able to answer all the questions because there's usually so many. But we'll do a few more. So here's a question. I made a stupid decision and resigned from a job because it was very stressful. I should not have resigned. In interviews in the future, how do I answer the question, why did you leave your last job? I don't want to lie.
Um, I think just say that it became a very stressful situation and I left for my health, and not address the company, or if they say, well, why, what was the company doing? And you would say, it was just, my own response. And I felt that it was not healthy for me. So, something like that. But yeah, again, absolutely address it and think about, why did you leave? This person mentioned, it was very stressful. Um, you have to be honest about it and think about it, because if you don't and they're interested in you, they'll call your company, and the company might not answer, but you bring it up yourself, will explain to them, and that you're healthy. It's about your health and you wanted to be healthy. And again, going back to work-life balance kind of thing.
And I don't think that anybody's going to, if you say health is a priority for me, I don't think anybody can disagree with that because I think one would presume that health would be a priority for everyone.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
mean, obviously there are some companies that want you to work 90 hours a week. Um, I, you know, but for those companies, health may not be a priority, but that's probably not the majority of companies.
No, no.
Here's a great question. How would you suggest practicing interviewing skills?
Get a friend and sit and you said this program is going to be posted on YouTube. So
Mhm.
sit with a friend and write these questions down, and also research more questions. Again, the library has many resources, online, and now, like you said, some libraries are opening up. Start looking through some of those. But I would get with a friend and say, would you be willing to ask me some of these questions? And make sure it's a friend that's going to be honest with you, but not critical.
Not
Someone who
critical
can
in that way, not mean.
more like a critique, like saying, well, I know. And sometimes when people have done this, because I've helped some friends do this too, it's like they forget all the things they did do. And you have to remind them, wait a minute, you forgot to say this and this and this, which will be helpful. But I would have a friend do it. I would say relative, it depends on your relatives.
Yeah,
Someone you trust their opinion, you trust how they see you.
yeah. I mean, come up with your stories and say them out loud.
Exactly,
A
exactly.
lot of people they just they think about it and they look at a piece of paper, but you have to say it out loud because when you're actually there, you need to know what you sound like. You need to practice what you sound like. Some people say practicing in the mirror. That's always kind of uncomfortable for me. Like looking in the mirror and seeing myself, I can always get distracted. But I practice in my car. I practice while I'm driving.
I think, like you were saying, like getting feedback from another person
That's helpful.
who, who could say, you emphasize this too much, or you forgot to say this, or you got to tell them about this and this and this that you did, those kinds of things. And that'll help you, going back to your resume, maybe rewriting your resume according to what your friend sees.
Yep. Let's do one more question. I think we're getting to the end here, and I want to do one more. And let's see. So I think you mentioned this, you've already covered this a little bit, but if they ask you to talk about a performance issue that you've had in the past and how you would show improvement in that. You know what? Actually, you covered that because you talked about um, you did cover that to
Oh,
how to address weaknesses is pretty much
right,
that.
right, yes, yeah.
Can you go back to that slide just really quick because I think that would be helpful to this person.
That was, yeah, this one. What are your
Mhm.
best professional strengths, your weaknesses? What skills do you think you need to improve?
And so the next slide.
My best strength is the
No,
areas
actually,
where I
it's not that slide. It's the slide with where the manager didn't understand the financial reports. It's that one.
Oh, conflict.
Conflict. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me see.
I think it's somewhere ahead, I think. Let's see. Wait, keep moving forward. I'll know where it is because I remember that story.
Yeah, because I think I only had one response to it.
Okay, go ahead and keep moving forward. And keep going. The next one.
Oh,
There we
describe
go.
a
This
challenging
one.
conflict.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
this one. So the idea is that you had a conflict and you addressed that conflict and you came out on the other end of that conflict a better person.
Well, the thing is, you don't think about it as I don't like to say problem. I like to say challenge. And the thing is, think about it. If you're both in the same company, you both want what's best for the company. So think about that. What will benefit both of you and help the company at the same time? If you have that attitude, you'll be able to resolve it and work around the conflict in general. I can't say every time. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I think that covered it. All right, Diana. Thank you so much for sticking around with us and answering the questions. We've covered a lot of the questions. And thank you for all the folks out there who gave us your questions and were with us during this presentation. I know it's already 8 o'clock at night. I know we're all starting to wind down for the evening.
Well, thank you all
So
for listening, and I wish you much success with all of this. And thank you all. Thank you, Anna Sylvia, too.
absolutely. Anna Sylvia is our stalwart moderator here with us, helping people sign up, and I'm glad that she's here.
Me too.
So
It's always a pleasure to work with both of you, and I love the idea that we're able to reach out to the community with this program.